Hello, everyone. Welcome to Where Are All the Women? I'm Megan Murphy. I'm just fiddling with my fan over here. How are you doing, Mary Lou?
I'm all right. I'm busy and it's really hot here, and I don't like that.
Yeah, it's freaking humid here.
Mhm.
Are you feeling like, are you like a new agey planet person?
I mean, sometimes I am, and then sometimes I don't like that. Depends on the day. Probably something
Yeah.
in my chart says I'm sometimes a new agey planet person. Sometimes not. Is there something going on with the new agey planet stuff?
Oh, I don't know. I was just checking because
Yeah.
it feels like everything's in chaos.
Oh, everything is totally in chaos. Yeah. And I'm sure you could look at the astrology of the world and see why, but we don't need to do that. We can just notice that it's all in chaos.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like everything in the world, I think, is always in chaos, and so I'm less concerned about that. This wasn't in response to you. This is just me thinking out loud. But I feel like there's like this common, there's something weird going on with your audio. I hate myself for saying
No, what's going on with my audio?
it. Just there's like some background noise and it sounds echoey. But I don't know. Maybe it's connected to your external mic still. Yeah.
No, it just went back to that.
Oh, okay.
It's
So
hot.
I'm not crazy. My dog's barking. The audio's fucked. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, fix it. I tried. I fixed it for like 5 minutes, and then it went back.
Yeah, it sounds bad again. Sorry.
Haunted. Let me see if I can go here and turn this off. Don't allow.
I think I'm gonna have to start keeping baby Adelita in the room if she continues to bark through all the streams. Okay. Well,
it won't go back to the microphone. It just won't do it.
Oh God.
Sorry. What to do? People in the comments say it sounds fine to them.
Doesn't sound fine. But anyway.
So this is like when I'm watching a movie with my husband and everything is fine to me, and then
it sounds
in the middle
bad.
of the movie he'll say, "Oh no," he'll say, "Oh, the imagery is so bad because it's not in HD," and I haven't noticed it at all, but then I notice.
I don't notice that. Well, I think, maybe because I podcast all the time that I really pay attention to audio quality. And so I can tell when the audio quality sounds bad. Kristen says, yeah, it's echoey. Try to change it back to the Yeti if you can. And I'm going to talk. What I was going to say is there's this thing that that liberals do. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say this who isn't like a liberal, but where they're like, oh, well, like if I say like, oh, I'm feeling, I don't know, I'm feeling blue, or I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling like anxious or something like that. And they're like, well, of course you are. I mean, the whole world is in chaos and we're at war and everything's falling apart. And I'm like, that doesn't affect my state of mind at all. And I don't believe that affects other people either. I think that they point to that so that they can sound like they're deep or like political, or so that they don't have to address the actual reasons why they're feeling depressed or anxious or what have you, because usually those kinds of things are actually your own problem. Like if I'm feeling messed up, it's my fault, it's like something bad happened, but at the end of the day, it's kind of my fault. Like, it's like, oh, I got myself embroiled in a drama or a bad relationship, or I'm not like paying attention to my boundaries and I'm letting like toxic energy into my life, or I didn't go to the gym this week and so I feel bad about myself. Like, it's that kind of thing. And I think that, and especially with liberals who are so addicted to mental health narratives and like, oh, I'm depressed and I need pills. But of course, how could you not be depressed with all this racism? You know what I
know?
mean?
Exactly. Okay, it says my
you sound
microphone.
good.
Yeah, I fixed it again, but hopefully the ghosts won't switch it back again.
Okay, thank God. Okay, everyone can relax. I'm
now
the
I can
only
talk
one that's
again.
worried about this.
I'm allowed to speak again.
Yeah. I'll stop talking. I won't.
No, I hear you. I'm really tired of that. I'm so tired of the fatalism and the refusal to be happy because the narrative is telling them no one can be happy when the world is so messed up. And
it's a way to avoid personal accountability, I think. I really think that's what it is. Because if I wanted to pretend that I wasn't feeling bad because of something that I've gotten myself embroiled in or somehow imposed on myself, or because I'm not, living right, you know what I mean? Like I'm not working hard enough or paying attention to my routines or eating whatever it is, if I wanted to avoid all that, then sure, I could be like, oh, I'm feeling depressed because like there's too much craziness going on in the world and World War III, yada, yada, yada. Or you could just point your fingers at somebody else in general and be like, so-and-so did this to me or so-and-so was blah to me. But I
can
really
never be happy because my parents were terrible.
Well, that's true for me anyway. No, I am happy despite my parents. I don't know how I managed it.
Yeah.
I feel like I can never be in a good relationship because of my parents. Is that the same thing?
I mean, it might be. You'll have to examine that. What would the Stoics say?
I'm asking you. Gosh, what would the Stoics say? I've been reading and rereading Marcus Aurelius lately and trying to obsess more than normal on Stoicism because I'm trying to resolve my inner chaos, and it's been quite helpful. But I don't know what do Stoics say about relationships? I feel like it's not really about relationships. It's really about you and your keeping your peace and being humble and not thinking that you're very important, because none of us are actually really very important.
Most of the Stoics I know are men, and most of them are married dads who, excuse me, like the Stoicism keeps them in the commitment, like they have made a commitment to their marriage and their children, and this is their job, and they're going to show up. And it's not about ego gratification or advancing their own will. It's about meeting the obligations they have agreed to meet for the rest of their lives. So I actually really think Stoicism within a marriage is a great philosophy. I think it helps prevent just what I would consider kind of unnecessary breakups of families, just to pursue your bliss versus showing up to honor the commitment you made. But if you're not already in a relationship, I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I think it doesn't, but that makes sense. Yeah, that you're putting others before yourself and your own kind of hedonism or whatever it is. But I think if you're not in a relationship, the important thing is just that you're supposed to act right, that your responsibility is to be good and do good and to, get over yourself a little bit and I don't know, pursue your best path.
So many liberals could use a good dose of getting over themselves. I'm so tired of the drama and the pretending this is the most horrible time to live, or like it's so ignorant of history. There have been so many worse times to live through that your ancestors did live through. And just like pick a century and there's a worse thing to have lived through than what pretty much everybody at the No Kings protest is living through.
Yeah, but all those people spend too much time on the internet, and the No Kings protest was so gay. Like there was one, they did a No Kings protest in Vancouver. It's the same thing that they did with BLM, right? Which is, I was like, why are they doing a BLM protest in Vancouver in solidarity? Like,
Meghan, they did one in London where they literally have a king. Because you all have a king.
It's so that they're so lacking in self-awareness. So so the one in Vancouver, it looked like it was like all white people from the videos that I saw. Not that there's anything wrong with white people, but it seemed to be all white people. This is the demographics of Vancouver are always hilarious because they're so different from the American like whatever the American activism is that they're showing solidarity with, like they can't relate to that thing at all. You know, there's like hardly any Black people or Mexicans in Vancouver, you know, in as far the demographics are like white and then Asian, South Asian, and then small amounts of everything else. Like very small amounts, Indigenous. But yeah, mostly white people, some in masks. Like they all look like these like yuppies, you know, they're all middle or upper class. And, you know, they're holding signs about, what did I see? Oh, this was a good sign. We want we want scientific data, not alternative facts.
Oh.
It's like, I don't know what this has to do with immigration or kings, but all that you guys are doing is relying on alternate facts. Like you make up your own facts based on the narrative that you want or the thing that you want to protest. Also, you know, like you don't want a king, but you have like Mark Carney was installed without a real democratic process, and the party that you reelected shut down parliament for like 3 months or something like that to avoid being kicked out of his throne.
The hypocrisy is so glaring, and the refusal to look at their own history and current behaviors that have led to so many people despising them and just voting for Trump to spite them. That's a fascinating part to me, that they really don't understand how hated they are by such a good chunk of the population because of their behavior during COVID, with the Biden corpse puppet and whatever shadowy cabal running the United States, with the auto pen for 4 years, with the refusal to have a primary, the installation of Kamala Harris, who nobody liked. Two days before she was, you know, selected to run, everyone was, she can't win, we can't have her. And then suddenly the brain chip switches over and they love her. They can't understand how their own behavior repels the majority of people.
Well, and they can't understand that they are the authoritarians. I mean, this is the obvious point is that they all behaved, all these exact same people who were at this No Kings protest in Vancouver, they all behaved like fascist authoritarians for 3 years during the COVID pandemic. And you know, ratted out their neighbors and family, and we're big on they supported the snitch lines, and they wanted to force everybody into masks and inside their houses and didn't care how it affected them financially or otherwise.
Yet Noam Chomsky said the unvaccinated should be locked in their homes and denied food. It's hideous. That
like what did they like
that attitude?
Like what is this? The No Kings protest is like they're pretending as though Trump wasn't elected in a democratic fashion. Like what is the point here? What are they trying to say?
They've spent 4 years saying it was treason to question the outcome of a U.S. election. And now that's one of their big talking points, is saying that he stole the election, he rigged the voting machines, he wasn't actually democratically elected. They do everything they accuse the other side of doing, and they can't see it. And you know what? The Republicans can be total hypocrites too. This is just the evil of partisan politics. But right now, I especially hate these liberals because I do not want them back into power. I am so much more afraid of them than I am of what's happening in the opposition to them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Maybe I should be, but I'm not particularly afraid of anything that Trump is doing.
I don't like the free speech violations, making it a crime to criticize Israel. I think that's
He's not
uncool.
making. Are they really making it a crime to criticize Israel, or are they kicking people out of university who might be terrorists?
They're
Or
saying
they
that
support
on the
terrorists?
university, they're calling criticism of Israel hate speech. Like, that's very hypocritical. It's not pro free speech. Matt Taibbi has done a lot of good writing about the free speech violations coming out of this administration.
Okay.
No, I don't think they're great people. I prefer to have them in power right now, but
I really
yeah.
like JD Vance a lot.
I like Tulsi Gabbard, and I really like RFK Jr. and I love Vinay Prasad, my celebrity crush, sort of pseudo celebrity. Is Vinay Prasad a celebrity? I really have
like
such
all
a
those
crush
people too.
Yeah.
I mean, JD Vance was just on. Oh, my brain is blanking. Thanks for nothing, brain. He was just on that podcast. He's a comedian. Somebody in the comments, please help me out here. And he just, excuse me, he just seems very down to earth, and he has a really good sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I'm gonna look this up. Easy. Oh my lord.
Well, JD Vance is really smart too. I feel like
Theo Vaughn, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Duh. And I think he is really smart, and I feel like he's, and when he posts on X, I feel like he's really being pretty authentic and honest in himself, but he doesn't act as emotional and erratic and immature as, say, Elon Musk and sometimes Donald Trump does.
No, I think that those people were raised really wealthy, and I think JD Vance is actually a much smarter person than either of them. I don't think either of them are particularly stupid, but I don't think they have the innate grit and high intelligence that got JD Vance to where he is right now. He's just really, really intelligent person. And I think that right now there is more diversity of thoughts on the Republican side, as evidenced by that list of people. Like that there's room for disagreement. There's not as much just lockstep parroting of talking points going on.
I think there was just a study that came out that showed that was true, actually, that there was a greater diversity of thought coming from the left versus the right.
Coming from the right versus the left, right?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Coming from the right versus the left. Yeah, I'm not gonna read this study right now, but there was one. And I mean, I absolutely think that that's true. It says, there's more diversity of thought on the political right than on the political left. Although they pride themselves on open-mindedness, liberal thinking actually coalesces around a very narrow set of opinion, whereas the right diverges widely.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, that's true. And then the other study that came out recently, and I don't have the stats in front of me, maybe you can find it, of the extremely high rates of mental illness among self-identified liberals compared to conservatives. That's very concerning to me.
Do you think that it's real mental illness or self-diagnosed mental illness? I think that part of that has got to be that the left and liberals love being mentally ill and the right does not. Like the right is interested in health and staying in shape and fitness and mental health and sort of strength of character, and the left, those are not values of the left.
No, I think it's self-identified mental illness. I don't think there's more schizophrenia and severe bipolar going on one side than the other of the political spectrum. But I think that, the majority of liberal, like hardcore Democrat partisans I know do identify as some kind of mentally ill. My anxiety, my depression, my PTSD, my ADHD, like they're very invested in the psychiatric model and the medicalization of human distress.
Well, and they seem quite unhinged a lot of the time. I don't know if you watched this video. It was on Fox. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can share my screen because it's pretty weird. This is sort of typical of many of these activists. Can you see this here?
Mm-hmm.
You can probably see like my whole freaking.
I'm just so scared. I'm 74 years old. I worry about everything, and I just am so scared and upset, and I don't understand why people voted for this person.
Like,
Like we've all met that lady, like that prototype, right? I've met that at least 6 times since the election, and people like trying to move out of the country, convinced they're going to get put in a concentration camp. The number of people who have told me that they are so worried they're going to get put in a concentration camp since Trump was inaugurated exceeds, both hands. Like it's well over 10 people who have legit told me that with what seems like sincerity.
I mean, it's totally unhinged.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people who claim to be terrified about Trump, I don't believe them, but I guess I do believe this woman. She seemed quite sincere. I'm like, are you really? What are you really terrified of? And because most of the people I know who are like terrified of Trump or whatever, they call him a fascist, and they're posting constantly about how evil he is for deporting illegal immigrants. Like, they all are well off white girls from California. I'm like, what are you scared of? What are you scared of? What do you think is going to happen to you? Like, come on.
Well, I've heard, people, almost all the therapists I know do gender affirming care, and they're worried they're going to get put in jail for that, which I don't think anybody has.
They should be put in jail for
Propose
that.
No? I know. Well, if it's for children, absolutely. But I think the surgeons should be jailed. I mean, what they are doing to people is just so unethical. And then anyone doing those surgeries on children, that's a crime. That's really, really a crime. Being a therapist, whatever. I mean, I don't think anyone is saying we're going to jail people for therapy. They're the ones who passed all the anti-conversion therapy laws about actually making it a crime to even entertain the idea that maybe you're not gay, maybe childhood sexual abuse led you to have same-sex attraction. These things that are verboten to even discuss in therapy because of the anti-gay conversion therapy laws. They've already passed the laws criminalizing, approaches to mental health that they don't like, but they're afraid that the other side's going to do the same thing to them.
Yeah, that was like super ironic because I mean, same thing in Canada. We might have talked about this last week, but the Liberals passed a bill making it criminal essentially to like not support the affirmative approach to, they don't say kids specifically, but really, of course, this is only applicable to kids because adults don't need anyone's permission to go on hormones.
Right.
But kids need like a letter from their therapist or whatever. And they changed the definition of conversion therapy to include gender identity, which meant that, if you're a therapist or a doctor, for example, it became illegal to suggest, wait and see. Like, maybe you'll come out of this, maybe you'll change your mind in a year. Maybe you feel like you're a boy now, and in a couple of years, you won't feel like that. So let's just wait it out and see what's happening. You're supposed to be like, oh, you feel like a boy? You're a boy. Here are your puberty blockers. Right. So, yeah, it's crazy that they're worried about being criminalized for, sterilizing and mutilating children.
No, I live in an affirmation only state. The state has passed legislation that if you take any state funds, you have to give affirmation only care. And it's written in such a broad way that it is illegal for to do anything that might discourage or prevent anyone of any age from indirectly or directly discourage or prevent anyone of any age from accessing gender affirming care, abortion, or hormonal birth control. So if I I mean, I frequently have conversations with young teenagers and their mothers about why I don't think it's a good idea to put a 13-year-old who's not sexually active on hormonal birth control. I think it's literally creating endocrine disruption. It's literally sterilizing her, hopefully temporarily. That is now illegal if you take any state funds, because that could be considered directly discouraging. When women come wanting to end a pregnancy and talking about it, I encourage women to sit at that crossroads and really think about it. I think you should sit there and not, I don't practice affirmation only approach to helping women access abortion care. I don't think that's appropriate. I think that affirmation only care is bad care in any aspect of medicine. You should always discuss the risks and benefits and the pros and cons of anything.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like things are changing pretty quickly on the gender identity front. I don't know if you saw the Supreme Court upholds Tennessee gender medicine ban is the headline. Right. So 3 Tennessee families and a doctor tried to sue over the gender medicine ban in Tennessee. The Biden administration joined them, asserting the law discriminated based on sex in violation of the 14th Amendment's guarantee of equal protection. It's so strange that you would use sex discrimination as your defense.
They said it's because children, it was such a convoluted argument, but one of their arguments was children with precocious puberty are allowed to have these. So it's sex discrimination to deny them to the protected class of transgender children. The opinions coming from the court are beautiful. Amy Coney Barrett's opinion is incredible, where she says there's no such thing as transgender. It is not a legally definable term. It's meaningless legally. It is not an immutable characteristic. Her opinion was beautiful. Clarence Thomas wrote a really good opinion with it in support of the majority. The 3 who voted against it, of course, were the usual, like Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, who were just, Kagan, I feel like is fairly smart, but those other 2, I can't stand those 2 Supreme Court justices. I'm so mad at both of them for so many reasons.
So how do you say her last name? Sotomayor?
Sotomayor.
She's
the one who said
she said by Richard. Sorry, go ahead.
She's the one who said back during the hearings about the COVID vaccine mandates, she said that there were over 200,000 children on ventilators as we speak with COVID-19. I don't think there were 200,000 children on ventilators.
What does it mean you're trying to kill 200,000 children? If that were true, you'd be killing 200,000 children. Like, didn't everybody that they put on ventilators almost die?
Yeah, well, a lot of them did. And children did not get deathly ill from COVID. There were so few cases of severe COVID in children. Anyone who worked in the ICU was not seeing COVID in kids. We're seeing myocarditis after the vaccine came out, which was the time period we're talking about. And she's straight up either lied or spouted insane propaganda on the court record. She's and then she refused to come in person for months after they were meeting in person because she said she had diabetes and she was high risk and they were putting her life in danger. So she got to Zoom in while everybody else was showing up for work. Anyway, what did she say? She's overweight. She's obviously a propagandized, terrified person.
I was like, because if she has diabetes, I'm sort of assuming she's not a very healthy person. But she said in relation to this decision, by retreating from meaningful judicial review, exactly where it matters most, the court abandons transgender children and their families to political whims.
Mm-hmm.
In sadness, I dissent.
That's her whole dissent?
I don't know if that's her whole dissent, but that's part of it in any case.
What's a transgender child? I mean, I think Coney Barrett was very clear. Like there's no meaningful definition of this. It's just, and this is their own give them enough rope, the trans community with their gender fluid, and today I'm male, tomorrow I'm female, the non-binary, the switching back and forth. Some people know when they're children, other people come out after they've fathered 5 children with their workable penis and then decide they're a woman. It's completely meaningless legally what they have promoted. So I'm so glad for this sanity.
I find it funny when they talk about it as political whims, like it's not a political whim to say that this kind of treatment harms children. That's like the science and the data.
Right.
Like all of the studies and all of the reviews I should say the studies and the reviews all can't find any like legitimate scientific defenses for giving kids puberty blockers and hormones.
No. And then the Joanna Olson Kennedy study that they tried to suppress, and they finally released it, and they spun the results so intensely where they said there was no improvement in mental health outcomes when you gave the kids puberty blockers and then the cross-sex hormones. And the way they spun that conclusion was, this is proof that it helps, because if we hadn't given it to them, they all would have killed themselves. So the fact that they stayed the same, the fact that they stayed the same means that they got better. It's just double speak, and that got published, and anyone could read it and see that there's no evidence of benefit. And there's quite a bit of evidence of harm. They didn't include things like never having a libido for your entire life, never having any sexual function, being infertile. They just sweep all this to the wayside like it's no big deal to neuter a child.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I wonder if for these people, like, is sex and sexuality not important to them? Like, why would, if you were like a sexual person who enjoyed having sex and having orgasms, then I think you would see that as pretty devastating, like not being able to experience that as an adult.
I think there's probably, it's multifactorial, but what we were talking about before with so many people on the left who support this are on psych meds. They're on antidepressants, so they don't have a libido and they can't have an orgasm.
And they can't relate.
Yeah. And so many are on hormonal birth control, so they don't have a libido, and they, don't have good sexual response because they are essentially temporarily neutering themselves. So I think a lot of the pharmaceutical drug dependence on the left is neutering people as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because I think that if you don't have a libido, then you are like, you stop being able to relate to people or narratives that say that like sex is actually really important. Like you're like, whatever, no big deal. Who cares? Because that's not an important part of your life. And yeah, you're right that so many of these people are on antidepressants and things like that. And yeah, again, are probably pretty unhealthy in other ways. Like if you're unhealthy, I think you're not going to have a healthy sex life, or you're sort of less likely to, maybe.
I would agree with that. Yeah. And also one of the foundational beliefs of the left is the world's overpopulated. And I hear from liberal friends all the time that they are glad their adult children don't have children and don't want children, and they encourage their children not to ever have children. Don't bring children to this terrible world, and the world's overpopulated. Or I've even heard many white liberals say they don't want their children making more white people.
Oh,
so I don't think they mind neutering children and sterilizing children for that reason as well. It might not be entirely conscious, but that's part of their belief system, is no one should be having children. Or, you can just buy children later too. There's always that.
Yeah, I guess these are the people who think that population growth is bad. So to them, probably wouldn't be that big of a deal to sterilize kids.
Right.
That's a good point that I didn't think of. I was just in relation to the, I don't know if you saw this tweet. I just wanted to ask you what you thought about it. This was in relation to the sex question. It's sort of diverging from what we were talking about, but the tweet was that, so somebody posted, if you have not thrown away your virginity before marriage, don't make the same mistake so many of us have made. That innocence cannot be taken back. And then somebody quote tweeted and said, losing my virginity with my wife on our wedding night was the best reward of the flesh. And then someone named Deb quote tweeted that and said, I mean, you're free to do what you want, but finding out too late that you're sexually incompatible is actually a really huge and sometimes unfixable issue.
I don't think you have to have intercourse to know if you have good chemistry and you're sexually compatible.
What
Not
if
necessarily.
What if his dick doesn't work? So
Well, I mean,
just
if you're,
trying to
like,
not be vulgar.
really making out with him and kind of like,
But that-
humping him through your clothes, like you would notice, that if it's working or not. I think we need to bring back making out and everything but, and like, long extended makeout sessions while you're like, that's
who has that kind of self-control? Who are these people?
I mean, teenagers in my generation did.
Teenagers, but
Teenagers are the most impulsive people. If teenagers could,
but if you've not had sex before, it's sort of like, well, okay, so maybe this is supporting what these people are saying. I was going to say, if you haven't had sex before, not having sex is easy. If you've already had sex, but we're talking about the question of whether or not you should stay a virgin until after marriage. If you've had sex and then you're like making out with someone like to that level, it's hard to not follow all the way through.
This is where the Stoics would have some advice for relationships. But I think people are mistaken to believe that you can't know if you have good sexual chemistry if you haven't actually had intercourse.
But
I think you can feel sexual chemistry. You can feel, I know a lot of people in really happy, healthy, vibrant relationships who come from traditions where they believe very strongly in not having sex before marriage, and they report that they have good sex lives. Like they're all over each other. They, with 3 or 4 kids, and you can still feel the spark between them. I don't think it's impossible.
I've had really good sexual chemistry with people, and then the sex has been not good.
Really? But did you like spend hours?
Sometimes there's physical limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think that if you're really making out, you can tell if somebody's got issues. Also, like plenty of guys develop impotence later in a relationship. Like that's not. Not. Yeah, I think if you're going to be married for 50 years, absolutely they do.
50 years, okay.
Yeah, I think that a lot of older guys do. Just think, yeah. I think that there is value to that belief system if that's your belief system. I'm not going to push that on anybody, but I don't think we should diss that. And what I see is this the magic and the madness of the beginning of a sexual relationship where like all you want to do is have sex like 6 times a day, and it's you're just completely hot for each other and you're projecting all your good stuff and you're in love. If that starts with marriage, for the rest of your marriage you're going to associate being married with that honeymoon period. Or if you've already been having sex for 3 years and then you get married, like you're not going to get that back. Like you don't actually have that. That's a once in a relationship thing, that beginning bonding and madness. So I think that there is some cultural wisdom to chivalry and romanticism and waiting until commitment to have sex and then associating all of that amazingness with a solid, good relationship, a committed relationship, versus the opposite of associating all of that with a somebody that you don't know is an abusive creep yet, because you had sex with him on the second date or the first date.
Yeah. I mean, having sex too early is a big mistake. I wouldn't discourage somebody from waiting till marriage. I'm just thinking about whether or not that would be purposeful or good in any way. And I do think I would worry about, but maybe these people are doing kind of everything but, and so they really do know that it's going to be okay.
Well, I mean, I know plenty of people too who don't seem to have great sex lives who come, follow that conservative path. It's usually a religious path, but I've seen it work a lot. I think that studies show those marriages are less likely to end in divorce, but probably part of that is the cultural beliefs around divorce as well.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, having sex too early is, a really big mistake because you bond with somebody before you know them.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time they turn out to be abusive or crazy or narcissistic or emotionally immature or afraid of commitment, you've already bonded with them, and then you're in for a world of pain.
Right.
I mean, I've never personally experienced that before.
No.
It's
we'll see. I don't know how the human story is about to unfold, but I think we might be going back to those more Victorian like sex norms, just with the extreme rise in syphilis and other STDs, the disillusionment with hookup culture, the collapse of the social safety net that's going to make people want to have stronger familial ties. I think a subset of the population is going to get a lot more into traditional beliefs about pair bonding and marriage. Could go the other way. I mean, we could go more toward like a warlord society where it's going to really suck for women. It's like the Crusades, right? Like part of how they sold the Crusades was chivalry of, as Christians, we treat our women better. It's a better deal for you as women to live under Christianity than Islam, where it's this, women are traded and haremed and kept as property and, by the rules of their warlord master who wrote their book. Like I think chivalry is going to come back, but I also think maybe some other things are going to come back too simultaneously.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are sort of embracing more conservative approaches to, well, a lot of things, but sex and dating. But then at the same time, Gen Z and the younger millennials apparently aren't having sex at all, but
yeah, that's what I see.
are all on OnlyFans, and they're living in this porn culture from the time they're like 11 years old.
And they have AI chatbot girlfriends now too.
Yeah.
And boyfriends.
AI relationships, like really creepy.
Yeah.
And really dangerous. I mean, so I just interviewed Joe Allen. He was on my podcast last. He's super smart, and he wrote a book about transhumanism, and he covers AI a lot and tech stuff in general. But he was essentially saying that, we're going to lose a lot of bloodlines because all these people are having relationships with AI and chatbots. So they're not reproducing. Like they're basically like extincting themselves, which is really strange. Like it's like a total death wish.
And they're into it. Like, again, like liberalism is promoting that. It's an evolutionary dead end to just push, sterilization and birth control and abortion and porn and AI. It's a total evolutionary dead end for them. And it's fascinating to me as, I'm very much an ancestor. I don't know if I'm an ancestor worshiper, but I really, really like my ancestors. Like I'm very connected with my ancestry, and I love thinking about the people who came before me. And I'm excited to be an ancestor. Like I like having descendants as well. And most people aren't like that right now. People are fine with their line dying out.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a product of the left and leftist ideology.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I was always like that when I was younger. I was like, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, This, I thought, Shosh Music in the comments says that we're talking about the waiting till marriage or just waiting to have sex in general. She's not talking specifically about marriage. She's saying, what about when you've waited and then they switch and lose respect for you? And then she says, and trust me, I waited. I don't think it's really being discussed how coercive men can be until they get what they want.
Well, again, this is where things like the marriage contract come from, which
Yeah, right.
Was about like, if I'm going to do this, here's the deal. Or like the Jewish ketubah, the contract for the woman that says, all the things, if I'm going to marry you, which basically meant if I'm going to have sex with you, right? It was one and the same for most of human history. And that like, if I'm going to like legitimately admit to and on the record be having sex with you, here's what you have to do for me. And the ketubah is like, you have to buy me nice clothes and put a nice roof over my head and make enough money for me and my kids. And if I'm a widow and have kids from a previous marriage, like you have to take care of them too. You have to sexually satisfy me this many times in this time, every month. It was all about pleasing the woman and meeting the obligations of the woman. And if he deviated from that, it's like, fine, then I get everything and I go back to my family. So the marriage contract was like a legally binding contract that was in many traditions, not entirely about oppressing women. It was very much about like, what's the deal here? What's our contract together?
And ensuring that men aren't just philandering and like using and discarding women.
Yeah. And then, no fault divorce was actually very harmful to women in a lot of ways, where it used to be, okay, you broke the contract, you cheated. So I get to you have to pay me for the rest of your life. You have to continue supporting me with alimony. And I get to keep the kids and I get to keep the house. And yeah, it didn't always work out that way. Obviously nothing's perfect, but there were these safeguards in place that were about protecting women. Like, I actually think marriage was, it's a compromise between the sexes, but the contract was about, taking care of her and making sure she's provided for. And if you break the contract, she gets everything or a lot of it. Was it always that way in reality? No. But now it's just like marriage is meaningless. It's like no fault divorce makes marriage a completely meaningless contract.
Yeah, I do think marriage is kind of meaningless now, which is why I've always been sort of like meh about marriage, because I'm like, well, what's the point? Like in Canada, if you're common law, it's basically the same. Like, and yeah, if it's that easy to divorce, not that I know that divorce can be really hard and expensive and stressful, but it can also be really easy. So I mean, whatever. I'm not anti-divorce, because if you're in a miserable relationship, I think, sure, yeah, of course, like get a divorce. But yeah, I think it would be better if the marriage contract protected women in that way. And I know men complain about all those things, alimony and like, she gets to have custody of the kids and yada, yada, yada. And I sort of don't have very much sympathy for that, I'm afraid. I'm like, well, then act right. Make your relationship work.
Right. And I think it is like,
she doesn't want to be a single mom. I don't think that's ideal for most women.
No. When it was very much like who messed up here? Like, who broke the contract? Like, the contract was clear. Like, it assumed monogamy. It assumes financial responsibility. It assumes sobriety. Like, if someone is not meeting the legal contract, the other person benefits from the dissolution of the contract. Like, they're the one who gets the spoils of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's, how do you reconcile that with romantic love? Like, that was actually a pretty big coup, to romantic love and the legality of the marriage contract versus arranged marriages. It was not a bad thought process. Humanity messes up everything, and they're always like, there are more and more messed up people, I think, than there ever have been. People just are coming apart at the seams right now. But it's a scenario that can work well for a lot of people if it, when it was instituted.
I think, yeah. Well, I think a lot of people have no purpose or they don't know what their purpose is. And I think that really messes people up. Like I think that ties back to like why people feel anxious and depressed also. And then of course, like, why marriage isn't important because you just want to do whatever you want to do. Like
Yeah.
I think people don't know what their focus is in life and they don't have any kind of, I mean, this is why religion can be handy, right? Like, because it provides you with a set of moral
Yeah.
guidelines, at least,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it obviously wasn't working well when women didn't have any other options and they really were kept out of schools and employment. And a lot of women did feel trapped or like pushed into it with no other choices. Like what were your options not that long ago were be a secretary, a teacher, a nurse, or a nun, or a mom, or some
Yeah, I mean, I would have
combination.
been miserable in that
Yeah.
time.
Oh, I absolutely would have been miserable in that time. Though there were women who figured it out. I mean, I think probably you and I, as women who don't follow the rule, probably would have been more like one of the, the firebrand women who just did it anyway. Some of the women broke out of there. There were female physicians in the 1800s. There were, there were female scientists. There were female journalists and engineers. It was a lot harder, but probably because that's the kind of soul you have or personality you have, you would have refused to comply, right? And figured out a way to make it work because you're a free spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for
I would have
people, it
been
didn't
kind
work.
of the same as best I could. I would have been a writer.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have written under like a male pen name or something. Maybe
Uh-huh.
not.
Right.
But,
Right.
Did you see that in Quebec? This was quite shocking to me. Quebec is housing prisoners according to sex, not gender identity. I just couldn't believe that something like this came out of Canada.
Wow.
But what happened was this, I mean, this horrible, evil man, Mohammed Al-Balouz, they called him a Quebecer, but
Yeah.
he murdered his wife and his kids.
Ugh.
And then he was sentenced to life. And when he was in jail, he started identifying as a woman. And they decided to keep him in the men's prison.
Oh, interesting.
And so now that's the rule
For all of them?
Quebec.
Wow.
Yep. And that's the rule for Quebec prisons. They're housing according to sex, not gender identity.
Wow.
And I wonder if they're going to start changing things across the provinces. I mean, because there's so many cases like that. Like, I guess it's strange that they did. It's almost strange that they did it in Quebec because of this case, because there's all these guys who are like murderers and rapists and pedophiles who identified as women to be transferred out of the men's prison.
Oh, and men who autogynephilic men are far more likely to be violent and sexually violent, especially to women. This community, like the subset of men who say they're transgender, are so much more likely to be criminals, especially sexual criminals and violent criminals, than men at large, men in general. But when, maybe people are finally waking up to it. Instead, I can hear the liberals saying, well, he was just faking it, or that's a one bad apple. But it sounds
this guy was faking it, but I mean, they're all faking it.
Yeah, exactly. They're all faking it.
Argument. They're all fake. None of them are women.
But was it in Canada that the pedophile autogynephile was driving the school bus, or was that in the United States? Did you see that? The Lolita Line guy?
Oh, I saw a photo of that, but I didn't read about
wearing
it.
Wearing like little pink.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
Schoolgirl outfit.
Bus driver. It was Toronto. Yeah, it was Canada. Of course, it was Canada. I should have just assumed it was in Canada. A school bus driver in Vaughan, Ontario, which I guess is near Toronto, was seen driving a vehicle with a sign in the window that read Lolita's Line while dressed in what appears to be a schoolgirl's uniform He oh, they don't say he. It just says a school driver. A schoolgirl's uniform will no longer provide transportation to and from the school. This is so creepy.
It's so disgusting.
In a statement to CTV News Toronto, a spokesperson for the board for the York Catholic District School Board said it was aware of a social media video filmed at St. Michael the Archangel Catholic Elementary School that appears to show parents confronting the driver.
Wait, it's at a Catholic school that this is happening? St. Michael the Archangel in particular? That's quite
I mean,
the
a
archetype.
Canadian Catholic school, so they've probably covered the school in pride flags.
Oh my God. Wow. And the parents confronted him, and the school administration said they didn't see a problem with it, right?
He had a sign on his school bus that said the Lolita line.
Exactly. Like, I'm a pedophile.
This is crazy.
I'm a pedophile. Right. And
Gross.
performing my fetish, wanting access to children. My sexual perversions have taken over my entire life. Let me drive your kids around.
What a creep. Yeah, he's in this like pink frilly dress with a wig on. So in this social media video, one of the parents is saying, "Why do you call your bus the Lolita line? Why is it called the Lolita line?" And the bus driver is heard saying that they do this every week. That's his defense. Oh, I do this every week. I don't think there's any problem.
Does he? Oh my God, it's so disgusting. And then is he gonna continue to be allowed to do this? Like, is he gonna continue to?
No, I think he's gotten fired or something like that. The company quickly addressed the situation with its employee. I'm sorry, my brain is not functioning very well today. With its employee and the driver. Will no longer provide busing to and from the school. The company has assured the school board that this would not be an issue at any of these schools in this district going forward.
It's so interesting.
It sounds like he got canned by the company providing bus drivers to schools.
I just think of the St. Michael prayer in Catholicism. St. Michael's a bigwig in Catholicism, and that the end of the prayer is asking him to cast into hell the evil spirits who prowl the earth, seeking the ruin of souls. And I think like this guy just epitomizes like, well, the grossness prowling the earth, seeking the ruin of humanity. I can't believe this went on for even a day. And then a guy could be so brazen. We live in times where he can do this, and he knows that like good men won't beat the shit out of him, which would be the appropriate response of the fathers in that community to just kill this guy, or at least like beat the shit out of him and get him to like be afraid to leave his house.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that's missing from all these arguments from people who think that like saying that men shouldn't be allowed in women's washrooms or change rooms, for example, that's gonna like, what are you gonna do? Check everyone's genitals when they go into the washroom? And it's like, well, you never used to have to do that because, or like, get ID, like, are you gonna have security at every single door? And it's like, well, you never needed to do that because for the most part, yeah, if you did that, a man would beat you up. Like a woman would scream or whatever, or rat you out, and then somebody would beat you up or kick you out. Like there didn't have to be a whole process because everybody knew that was wrong.
Right. Right. And now these guys have impunity, and that if you have a problem with it, you're going to get threats of violence and cancellation and never be allowed to use that facility again. Like maybe go to jail, depending on what country you live in. It's
but is this all on its way out? Like, did you see that clip from Rogan? There was a comedian who, he is Sam Tripoli, was saying a couple years ago on Rogan that pride was going to disappear from popularity and that instead it was going to be immigration protests. And he'd gotten this information from a guest who had sort of insider sources in the deep state or something like that. It wasn't just something he came up with on his own. But it seems like that's what's happening. Now they've pivoted away from trans because this is declining in popularity, and they're moving on to this immigration issue like it was all planned in advance, almost. Like there was so much organization and funding gone into this No Kings protest and the riots and protests in LA in general. It's all funded by like the same organizations that fund all of the liberal everything.
We'll see how it plays out. I'm thinking there's going to be some.
Like they let all these millions and millions of immigrants in, and then Trump has to deport them, and then they stage all these protests and paint him as a bad racist and create new chaos and maybe burn down more cities. Like it seems a bit suspect.
Yeah, I think we're probably gonna. I think it's all gonna pivot away from all of this, and sadly, I think there's gonna be a mass attack on U.S. soil that's going to get blamed on Iran, which may or may not be actually from Iran. I mean, there are a lot of jihadis in the United States right now, and then we're going to go to war, and then that's going to be like the zeitgeist shift. I think that's likely to be how it's going to shift. I think there's going to be a big turn to the hard right and more of like a warlike mentality. I mean, the situation with Iran is nerve-wracking and so reminiscent of previous Middle East wars of my lifetime, but scarier because
about it.
Yeah,
I mean, if I trust the narrative, no, I don't think that Iran should have nuclear weapons. But I know what narrative to trust.
They've been, saying Iran is on the verge of developing nuclear weapons for at least 30 years. This has been the narrative for it. But this is not similar at all to Iraq or Afghanistan. Iran has a lot of power and a lot of powerful friends, supplies a lot of oil to China, closer to Russia than, like Russia is more supportive of Iran, certainly than I would like. Yeah, it feels like World War III. It just feels like it could be World War III. I'm hoping cooler heads prevail, but if I were like looking at my crystal ball, I'm like, oh, there's going to be a big attack on U.S. soil that's going to switch the zeitgeist to that. And the right wingers are going to be the ones more in control of the narrative. Because there's so many people in the Democrat Party that have been gunning for war with Iran for a long time as well. Dick Cheney was supporting Kamala Harris. Like he's wanted to have a war with Iran. I'd probably see it since he emerged from the womb. Like he's kind of like the devil incarnate. Like he's just like his whole career he's wanted a war with Iran. So we'll see. Maybe it won't be World War III. Someone just said Russia and China withdrew support from Iran. But
I mean, do you think that the intentional, like allowing an influx of immigrants into America and Canada and the UK, do you think that was done on purpose to create discord?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the globalists don't want independent nation states. They want a one world, central bank, surveillance state is what they want. And they want the nation states to be as weak as possible. They want complete destabilization of the West. They want the destruction of Western democracy. Absolutely. I think that it was intentional.
Yeah. And in the comments, somebody said, but of course, mostly immigrant men, like they're importing all these immigrant men.
Fighting age men. Right. It's an invasion. Any other time in history.
Countries who are like raping, like these, did you see these stats? Like, the stats around how much more common it is for these immigrants from mostly Muslim countries to rape are crazy.
No, I think Islam, I don't have to say it again. I think it's the most frightening, disgusting, totalitarian force on the planet. I can't stand it. Those are the worst men on the planet. People like awful. Not all Muslims, but that religion is disgusting to its core. Like you read their holy book, their prophet is a pedophilic, womanizing warlord who said it's fine to rape women who are not of that belief system, to pillage and take rape slaves from other people, to kill every Jew on the planet. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible belief system, and it wants to take over the world.
Yeah. So when here's like there's a whole list of stats that I found on X, but out of Ireland, they found that foreign nationals are 5 times more likely to commit stranger rape than a UK or Irish national.
Of course they are. They come from cultures where it's okay to rape women.
In England and Wales, Sudanese are 24 times higher the rates of sexual crime arrests. Sorry, this is about the rates of sexual crime arrests. Afghans are 20 times higher. Iranians are 18 times higher. Iraqis are 17 times higher. Out of Sweden, 75% of stranger rapes were committed by non-Europeans. That means that non-Europeans are 22 times more likely to rape a random woman than a European.
And these are, by non-European, they generally mean men from Islamic countries. They don't mean Japanese or Taiwanese men. Generally.
Yeah, this is all about these Muslim countries. All of these stats are related to Muslim countries. It just goes on and on and on. A report from 2021 in Finland found that African and Middle Eastern migrants have 10 times higher rates of rape.
So it is, I mean, it's demoralizing to the women. I think one of the tools of war is demoralization of women. There's that that old saying of a nation is not conquered until the hearts of the women are on the ground. And getting the support of women is important for any social movement. And
women support the illegal immigrants. Like liberal or leftist women would never say out loud that it's, however many times more likely that a Muslim immigrant will rape a woman than someone from the UK or Ireland or Canada or America or whatever, right?
No, I think that transgenderism and Islam together are like a 1-2 punch to the morale of women in any country. Those two things come to, and they are so hand in hand. Queers for Palestine, and and there was a chant going on in my town. I can't even remember the something fight Palestine trans rights. Like they're like putting them together, Palestine and trans rights together. I don't know. I think something really warlike is going to have to rise up in the men of, like, the indigenous men of Europe, the men who not just the indigenous men, but the men of Europe who value Western civilization and value the historical basis of, the foundations of Western civilization. It's going to be ugly. The only way to turn this around is something very warlike has to arise in the people who don't like it.
Yeah, and electing, populist, so-called far-right governments, which they have been doing in places in Europe and and in America.
We'll see. I mean, the Irish. We'll see if they've completely neutered the Irish or not. That's a place where that we might see a big uprising. The Irish have a long history of not being docile. The Romans wouldn't even go there, So maybe,
they're tough.
Maybe the Irish will push it out. But the Irish are demoralized and kind of like culturally neutered. Like they're EU now, right? They're not. The EU was the beginning of getting rid of national identities.
Right. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
All right. Did we fix it?
Just in time to wrap up.
Yes.
Like and subscribe. Find me on Substack at www.meganmurphy.ca. And please become a paid subscriber. That really helps support my work. In fact, it's one of the only things that supports my work. So if you'd like me to keep working, I really appreciate paid subscribers. It's only $5 a month. And Mary Lou is on Substack at Mary Lou Singleton. You can find Mary Lou on Twitter at ML_Singleton. And you can find me at Meghan E. Murphy. There's probably other things I should say, but we'll be back next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all for joining. Thanks, Mary Lou. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. See you next week.
Okay. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye, everyone. Good night.